So a few weeks ago, we heard from Damah Ben. She is mother to a special needs child, 7-year-old Zani, Paul Zani, and they like to call him Zani. He has cerebral palsy. He was only diagnosed probably around about a couple of years into his life. And so Damah Ben talks, she spoke a bit about Diapers for a Smile, which is an initiative that she started when she saw that some of the women she was going to clinic with for these sessions with their special needs children weren't turning up for some of the sessions because they didn't have the money to buy a diaper, to buy nappies for their little one. And so they would often miss these sessions that are really essential in their milestones, in helping them, helping the parents, but also helping the children. And so she started this initiative called Diaper for a Smile. And you can find it on Facebook, facebook.com/diaper4, 4, a smile. But if you want to get in touch with Damah Ben, you can also email me and I'll make sure that she is connected with you. She also provides Recharge, which is a Facebook group providing some just refreshing and help and connection and friendship, really, for caregivers and friends of those who care for children with special needs. She does an amazing work, but we're going to hear a little bit more about her story. And what you will hear is really just the heart of a mother. And the heart of a mother who loves God, but in a moment of distress, how she cried out to the Lord and just saw God answer her in so many ways. We are not able to listen into the whole conversation because Zani woke up from his sleep. And so as a caregiver, it was difficult for me to continue hearing the rest of the story. But what we will hear today will, I'm sure, encourage you. And so as you listen into Damah share her story, will you pray for her? Maybe you know of a mother or a parent, a caregiver to a special needs child. And I want to ask you to just pray for them today in particular. Maybe something comes to mind that you could do to just be a blessing to them. Perhaps provide a meal for them as a family, or if you're able to, some respite. What a huge blessing. More than anything, though, just would you pray for them? Make a commitment even daily to pray for them and ask God how you can be a blessing to them. My guest on the program today is Damah Ben. She's running a social enterprise initiative in Nairobi in Kenya called Diaper for a Smile. Basically, parenting a special needs child with a smile. Also creating refreshing spaces for caregivers of children with special needs. Hello, Damah Ben. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Hello, Ruth. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your story. So tell us where this whole initiative started, because it's very close to home, right? This is your own story.
Oh, yes. So this initiative, Parenting a Special Needs Child with a Smile, supported by a charity event called Diaper for a Smile, started 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. And the story behind this is because I am a mother to a special needs child myself. And I was taking my baby to therapy sessions. And it happened that we had to shift to another place from where we used to go. And this new place where we went, I started interacting with moms who had special needs children. And it was different from my first institution, because my first institution, I found parents who are able, you couldn't tell there was any need. But now coming closer home, this new institution was a community institution. And I could look at moms there and I could tell they were struggling. And I was not so sure about it until I started interacting with them and realized the need was so great. And I started touching them on individual basis. And I approached our therapist that time, and I raised my concern with her, and I was telling her how I've been looking at those moms, and they're struggling. At times I realized that that's why even missing out on sessions. And true to my concern, she confirmed the same, and she told me, actually, there are moms who are missing out on their sessions just because of lack of diapers. You can imagine this need, diapers, and that really touched my heart. And I started giving them on individual basis until the need grew and word of mouth. And that's how Diaper for a Smile was birthed. And it's an initiative whereby we come together, we share our journey, and then we get to give them diapers. And I remember our very first event, we were able to give them diaper that would last them for 4 months. And that really was such a blessing. And yeah, the need was there, the need is there. And what I'm saying and what I saw there, I mean, it was really emotional because some women would miss out on their therapy sessions just because of lack of diapers. So they would prefer keeping their children at home, at least where they can wrap them with, with clothes. It's demoralizing to have your child in a public transport wrapped in clothes, if you know what I mean. And so they would prefer missing out on their sessions. And when you miss on these sessions, what I've realized as a mom to a special needs child, these sessions, they require consistency. And so when they miss that, it would in turn affect their growth, their milestones, And so that's how Diaper for a Smile was birthed. And of course, I prayed, I asked God, how do I go about this need? I shared with my husband and I shared with my family, and I thank God because they were really supportive.
Yeah, amazing work that you're doing. So Damah, tell us a bit about your precious little boy. What's his name?
Our precious little boy is called Paul Zani. We fondly call her Zani. And he's our third born and the only son. And he's such a blessing. He was born in the year 2015. And like any other mother, when you're carrying that pregnancy, you are all looking forward to, holding that bouncing baby. And so that was our case. And as a family with our 2 girls and my husband, we were all looking forward to having Zani with us. And the pregnancy was very smooth until that day when we went for delivery. And it was a CS. And it was, they call it, I think, selective CS because it was not an emergency. It is because I had previous scars. And so I was expecting, to immediately to hold my baby. But when I woke up, I didn't find my baby there. And I was so shocked. Where is my baby? And then I learned that my baby was in the ICU. And that was really heartbreaking because I had not seen it coming. I had never gone through that before. And so when I gained my strength, they supported me to go and see him. And all these things were running through my mind. How will I find him? How is he? And the moment I got into that room, I found my son with tubes everywhere. He was on oxygen. And upon asking, I was told that he had difficulties in breathing, but they couldn't explain more than that. And so that's where our journey began. And I remember my 2 girls, they kept on asking, Mommy, when is our brother coming home? And because now we had to extend our stay in the hospital. And they kept on asking, Mommy, when is our brother coming home? And we kept on encouraging them, don't worry, they are taking care of him and soon we'll be home. And soon turned out to be 1 week, 2 weeks, we were still there. And the amazing thing or the interesting thing is that the doctors were not able to explain to me what was happening to him because the baby, he was in the incubator and he had the right weight He was okay. The only thing that he was missing is that he couldn't breathe on his own, and he had to rely on the machine. And so we stayed there. And I remember one night, I was now a bit, I really had a session with God, if I am to say this. And I really wanted to open up to God. And I was telling God, if truly, Lord, you blessed us with this son, do for us this miracle. I need to go home. I had stayed for 2 weeks. And girls, at times, the dad would come with them. And I would go see them, and you could tell from their faces something was missing. And for those 2 weeks, my family was going through a tough time. And even I had the support of my siblings and my parents. And I thank God for such a strong support system. And our cell church members, they kept on praying for us for those 2 weeks. And I remember one day the doctors approached me and told me, you know what, Mama? You just have to agree to go home and leave your child here. And so that you can go and relax, and you need also to heal, and we will take care of your baby. And I could not understand that. How do you tell me to leave a baby days old? I could not understand that. And it was so hard for me even to try to think about it. And I remember one morning, I cried and I told God, let your will be done. I was in my room, in my private room in the hospital. That day, I had my phone with me. And in my phone, I had saved a lot of gospel songs. And that morning, I remember putting on. And I started dancing in my room. I started singing praises in my room. And I cannot begin to tell you the peace that I experienced that morning. And I felt the burden, heavy burden lifted off me. And at that time when the doctors came, I told them I was ready to go home. It was not easy, but I had the peace of God in me. And that's how I learned how to trust God fully. Because now I knew I was leaving my child. I'm not there. I don't know what will happen. And so I trusted God fully to take care of our child. And I left him there and I went home. It was hard to be the baby. And I remember my mom was so looking forward to come and visit with her friends and, to see the baby. And I could tell her, please don't tell them. Don't tell them I'm home.
Zani went on to be diagnosed with cerebral palsy, but that was only after some very scary moments where you thought he was going to die, right?
Yes. In that hospital where he was born, after some days, he was also discharged. He was able to breathe on his own, but he had really lost weight. And he came home and everybody was happy to welcome Zani home. And so now, like any other mom, we are happy here. But that time he was not even breastfeeding. I would express the milk and then feed him. And most of the time I used to be in my bedroom, So expressing, giving him, it wasn't easy. But at least I was so happy that I was with him. Now, one day, remember from the time Zani came home, my husband and the girls were not leaving. They were always there to help me. I think after 1 month. Then I remember my husband saying, we have been indoors for long and I can look at you, Mom, see you're strong and the baby is okay. So today I'm going to take the girls out. We are going to, we are going just within and then we are coming back. And I thought, wow, that would be nice. When they were almost stepping out, I'm upstairs in my room and the baby was just next there. I had just felt him. And then I look at him and I'm thinking, my baby's not breathing. And I'm not sure. Then I touch him and yes, he's not breathing. I remember I made one shout and I called out my hubby and my husband. There's that call you can say and everybody will know and understand there's an emergency, He came right away. And when he came, I told him, babe, you know what? The baby is not breathing. He looked at the baby and you could tell he thought it was done. And I remember telling him, we cannot let it end like this. Let's just carry the baby. Let us rush to the nearest hospital. Let the doctors tell us that it is done. But we are not going to say it is done. And he said, you are right, my wife. He picked the baby and then he placed him on my shoulder and he told me, please carry him upright. Don't force him. And that's the position I put him. We got into the car and he drove so fast. I remember when you get to the nearest hospital, actually it was a clinic. When we got there, I left him there looking for a parking and I ran. Let me tell you one thing, Ruth, that I realized and I learned that day, that when there is an emergency, you will not even bother what other people will say about you or how you look. You will be bothered by the most important thing. At the moment, my mind was like, please, Lord, help my baby to be okay. Because I remember I stepped out the way I was with my unkempt hair. You can imagine a breastfeeding mother, with my slippers, something I had never done there before. I mean, I was shaggy. Truth be told, I was not looking my best, But that did not bother me at that time, And so when we were almost there, I remember my son coughing. And what a relief. We knew he was still alive. And so here I am, running upstairs to that clinic. When I got there, there was a queue. And I am this one person who likes following order, But that time, I did not even care whether there is a queue. I had to skip. I went running to the doctor. And I remember all I was saying, please come save my baby. Please come save my baby. When the first nurse came, I remember giving the baby and just, drawing back a bit. And they took the baby. They got inside. By that time, my husband was already there now. And they told me, Mama, you cannot be inside. Kindly step outside. We don't want to see what is happening inside. And I kept on pacing there. And people were looking at me. And you know what? That time, I was not thinking, how are people seeing me? I kept on pacing and saying, please, God, preserve my son. Preserve my son. And I remember after some time, there's a doctor who stepped out, opened the door, and I was here all waiting to hear. And the doctor said, I could see the smile on her face. And she told me, your baby is breathing now. Your baby is okay. And what a relief that was.
Wow.
And so they started organizing and telling us, we cannot go back home. This is a clinic. We need to go to their main hospital and be admitted there. And as they were trying to make different calls to book for ICU, because they thought this was an ICU case. And finally we got a place and they called an ambulance. And so we went to the ambulance. When you were there in the ambulance, and now still there, they were still making some calls to confirm. I'm looking at my baby and I realize again, he's not breathing. And that's where I tell moms, it's good to obey your conscience. Because I remember telling one of the medics, I think the baby is not breathing. And you know what? He said, don't worry, Mama. You're so worried. The baby is okay. And I could feel inside my heart, the baby is not okay. And I think he wanted to do something to just show me it is well. He went to touch the baby. He did not even tell me that the baby is not breathing. I saw him grab the baby and ran out of the ambulance and going back to the clinic. But at first he had said, don't worry, Mama. And at that point, that's why I tell women and moms, obey your conscience, And so they took the baby. This is the second time. He was taken upstairs again, and they started resuscitating him. I was left downstairs. I did not even go up there. And you know what? I think the devil took that chance to start preaching to me. And I started thinking, can a small baby go through such a thing, an episode, and manage for the second time? And I thought this was it now. Even the little faith that I had vanished. And I thank God because he made it through. And we were able to go to the main hospital. Now we get to the main hospital. I don't know whether the hospitals there are like ours here, that when you get in there, they want to start getting the history from the day he was born and the whole thing. And in my heart, I'm thinking, this is an emergency case. How do we start going through all this history? Can I take my baby and start working on him, And I told him, is it a must we go through the whole history? And he was like, yes, it is important. And I understand because I think that is a procedure. And he started taking the history. And in the middle of the history, my baby passed out again. And this doctor got he started panicking. And I thank God there was another doctor passing by, and he called him, and this doctor came in. Now they were two. Remember this time, I'm just there alone. My husband was, as we went with an ambulance, and he was following us. So he got into the hospital before he could arrive. And so I had to be there. And I'm telling you, it was one picture that I don't like, because most of the time it keeps on playing in my mind. Because I saw, the energy, the power they were putting on his chest as they were trying to resuscitate him. It was not a good scene. And I kept on thinking, in case he survives because of, just God, he might not survive because of the pressure. You could see the pressure they were putting on him. And my heart was so broken. It is one picture that I don't like remembering. It's one moment that I hope and I pray to God that it will one day clear out of my mind. And they tried, and they were almost giving up. And I was there telling God. And I stepped out. I didn't want to see how it is ending. And I told God, Lord, it cannot end like this. It cannot end like this. And as I was there, they were behind me. I heard one say, wow, we did it. And that's when I turned back and I looked at my baby, and I saw he was breathing and his eyes were open. And I praised God for that. So that was the third episode. Amazing. One day being resuscitated. Wow. And from there we were admitted, and we went to the HDU, and that's where we were for some time. After now we were in that hospital where we were admitted. After 3 weeks, that's where we were for 3 weeks, and then he was discharged. After 3 weeks, now he was able to breathe on his own, but getting there was not easy, because I remember there's a night that I like calling it the night that I unmasked myself before the Lord, because having been born again for a long time, and I wanted everything to look like all is okay, and just saying I have faith in God. But inside my heart was crying, and asking God a lot of questions. God, I got saved when I was a small girl. I've been serving you all these years. How could this happen to me? How could this happen to our family? And so I had that cry in my heart. And so this one night, when now we have been into this hospital for a long time, that was now almost 3 weeks, almost a month. And the whole program had been interfered with, because now the kids were going to school, coming back home. Mommy is not there. In the evening, they are brought to the hospital to see us. And I remember that night, I unmasked myself before the Lord, and I cried before the Lord. And I made a very difficult prayer. And I told God, all is not well. My heart is paining. And I prayed this one thing, Lord, as hard as it is. If truly you know that you gave us this baby and he's going to stay with us, perform a miracle. Heal him and let us go back home. But if you know the story is otherwise, I'm open to your will. It is such a difficult prayer for a mom to pray. But I think at that moment, I was ready. And I told God, it's either you heal him or let your will be done.
It was roundabout now that Zani woke up. And so I wasn't able to continue my conversation with Damah Ben. But, such is the life of a caregiver to a special needs child, or pretty much to any child, really, especially when they're very young. But in particular with Paul Zani, who was diagnosed after about a couple of years with cerebral palsy. He's made just incredible progress in his journey and his milestones. His mum told me about so many other miracles that have happened. More than anything, how God has brought her to a place of peace, resting and trusting in the Lord, continuing to go for these sessions, continuing to trust that God would help Zani to overcome some of the challenges that he has. What he's able to do now, a lot of the doctors say this is something that they never thought he would be able to do. He's such a huge blessing to them as a family. And God has used Damah to be a blessing to the other women that she's come into contact with, those who also have special needs children and who weren't able to afford diapers for their children. And because of that, Damah has set up this Diapers for a Smile initiative, as well as Recharge, which is a Facebook group for caregivers and friends of those with children with special needs. And you can find it all on Facebook. If you want to connect with Damah Ben, one of the best places is probably through facebook.com/diaper for the number 4, a smile. If you did want her other details, including the Facebook for Recharge, let me know. You can email me and I'll forward you the details, ruth@ucb.co.uk. I'm going to pray for Damah and again for you if you are a parent or a caregiver to a special needs child. I'll pray next.
UCB2.
I'm going to pray for the work of Diaper for a Smile and Recharge, that Facebook group for caregivers and friends of children with special needs. Pray for the work there. Pray for you too. Pray for you as a friend, a colleague, a loved one, to a parent or a caregiver to a special needs child. If you've got somebody like that in your sphere of influence, that the Lord would encourage you and help you and show you how you can be a strength and an encouragement to those who need us. Need to let them know that they are loved, that they're cared for, and practical needs as well, that God would just show you how you can be a blessing. And then also pray for you as a caregiver. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for these beautiful children. Thank you for these precious children. And yes, Lord, life is hard sometimes. It's difficult being a parent at the best of times. We often make so many mistakes. But God, you know. And so those who are today listening in and they are parents or caregivers to children with special needs, please help them. Come alongside them and encourage them today. And Lord, I pray for Damah Ben that you would encourage her and her husband and strengthen them. Bless them as you are already. Thank you so much, Jesus, for showing her that actually you could use her right there where she is. Her understanding and her empathy and her compassion for parents of children who have special needs has given her a way to help other mothers. And so thank you for her, Lord. Encourage her and strengthen her on the days when she feels weak. And bless her. In Jesus' name. Amen.
UCB2.